Checklist.io.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. I am your co-host, Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking about sex, sandwiches, and silence. What men really want, supposedly.
Make me a sandwich.
Then be quiet.
And give me sex.
That's literally the whole episode. Okay,
sex
bye.
Sandwiches. Wait, is it like triple S?
S. Oh, yeah.
It is, huh?
S. It's
all I want for you is to do psst.
Yeah.
Like, psst. Just give it to me.
So there's this guy that we came across on TikTok and social media, and we've mentioned him in the previous podcast before, but he just goes way out on what men supposedly really want. But there was one episode that he did, or one comment that he made that really stood out to us, and that was, he said, ladies, you overthink it. We overcomplicate it. We're always trying to like solve the mystery and put together the puzzle, right? And at the end of the day, he said men want three things. It's real simple. We want sex, sandwiches,
and shut
the silence. Okay? Silence.
Just silence. Order in the court. Yeah.
If you're a guy, this show's for women, but if you're a guy spying on us right now, creeping around our show, go ahead and drop a comment. Tell us if it's true.
You can be a creeper. It's okay.
Yes. So, ladies, I just felt like it was a really important thing because we do go so far out of our way to figure out, what does he want? Like, what's going to make him happy?
Right. Well, and I've heard that a lot, right? Where it's like, I just want her to make me a good sandwich. And you're like, is that it?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's easy. Like, are you sure you don't want chilaquiles?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Chilaquiles.
Wait a minute. But I think it's just like good sex, good food, and just shut up. Like, no one wants to nag. And I just think a lot of the time, us women, right, we're like, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And so we think we have the leverage because we just had sex with them. So we have the leverage to just be like, hey, what's up? Like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And like, I just want you to be quiet.
Oh my gosh. There's even a funny meme going around right now, a video meme that's like this audio that says, it's a comedian, I think it's a voice of a comedian. He says, ladies, it's not that we don't want you there. Like, we want you with us. We just don't want you with us. Like, we want you around. And he says something funny like, we don't care if you're hiding in the vents. If you're just like hanging out in the garage, like, we want you around, but we don't need you like right there.
Right.
As someone who raised two boys and two men, and obviously then I was married to a man, and my dog was a boy. I mean, it was like boy, and then myself. I can tell you that they are very, very simple creatures. They are such simple creatures.
Here's my kicker. So I have two daughters, and my dog is a female dog.
Yeah, so you're like the opposite.
So I'm like the opposite. And I will tell you, I think a lot of the time, first of all, we as women, we're overthinkers. Period. Straight up.
Yes.
And not only that, it depends, right? Because I always say my cycle makes me psycho. Not really. But
my cycle makes me psycho.
My cycle makes me psycho. Not really, it doesn't, because I'm pretty chill. But point is that we are already as it is. We're emotional creatures.
Yes.
It is just by nature, and just because our emotions go up and down depending on what's going on. If he says something, if he saw you a certain way, if you did something extra to your hair and he didn't notice, you're like, does he not notice me because of this? And guys are just really like to the point. They don't want a whole lot of mumbo jumbo. Just make them a good sandwich.
You feed them. Oh my gosh. So we're businesswomen, and whenever I bring on a new team member, if they're a female, and I know we're going to be working a lot of hours, this is how we used to operate. We used to like work so many hours, like 12-hour days easy when we were first launching. And I used to tell the ladies on the team that were married, okay, ladies, don't forget, because you're putting in the hours, don't forget to walk the dog and pet the husband.
That's your saying.
And they're like, walk the dog and pet the husband, because I was like, I know that this could really strain a marriage. And so it's like that simple. Like, you got to remember to pet the husband, feed the husband.
Yes.
But also when they're talking, like when we're having a conversation with them and they say something, there isn't a whole lot going on between the lines.
Right.
I think as women, we say things, but we mean, like, we might say this one thing, and that one thing might mean a whole list of things.
And they disregard it because you're the one that's being a psycho, and they're like, what are you talking about?
They don't read between the lines.
They don't know.
They say one thing on a text, and we're like, 10 friends. You guys, what do you think he means? He totally wants you. You know what? F him. He's totally being selfish. from like a one-line thing.
And he's like, what message are you talking about?
Wait, what?
What?
Like,
I sent you a message? What time did I send it?
Yeah.
And you literally like discussed it with every friend of yours. Yes. And he's like,
and you've like Googled
yeah.
and YouTube, what does it mean when he says blah, blah, blah. It's not that serious for them.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So
it
true.
is like, so this episode is just a friendly reminder that they're actually very simple creatures. They're so simple.
I love that you're calling them animals. They're like, they're really simple animals. They don't want a whole lot, not a lot of attention. They just want to, something good to eat.
I learned from my mistakes. When I first got married, I used to literally bug this man because he just had resting bitch face and like resting whatever a-hole face, like always in a bad mood in the house, but like always on with like the public. I was like, oh, but then at home I was like, ugh. So my thing was like, I would always be like, babe, what's wrong? Like, right. I was that girl, like, what's wrong? I genuinely cared, like, what's wrong? And he would be like, nothing's wrong. Like, sometimes it can just be that way. Like,
I think a lot of the time, again, going back to us being emotional creatures, I think we take everything personal. And I think time has gone on, and I think that, life gives you wisdom, and you come to the conclusion that not everything is about you. So not every circumstance, not so every time that this person comes at you and says something to you is he directing it towards you. There might be something like as men that they have to figure out because maybe they're the head of household, or maybe they have something that's going on either in their business or work that they have to figure out, and they're trying to come up with a solution as you're like, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?
Yeah,
and they're
wrong?
Like, seriously, leave me alone. Like,
yes.
I just need to be in my feelings. I need to figure out a solution. And a lot of the time, I think we as women, again, I just think, and
we're
I'm not bashing
too.
Exactly. And I'm not bashing us as women. I just think that we're maybe more nurturing and loving just by nature, usually. And so we want to fix things like you just said. And it's got nothing to do with you. So I think half of the time, I've always said this, like, if you know your partner, you just know that you gotta walk away, give him his space. He needs to be in his feels. If and when he's ready to talk to you, believe me, he'll give you everything he feels and more.
Yes.
And don't take it personal.
And that's it. And that's the hardest thing to learn. I know for me, it took me a good 5 years in my marriage to learn. And we often talk about, the types of people that we would date. And I always say, I want some, if I'm going to really settle down with someone, they had to have already been like married, divorced, had the kids, because there's all these lessons you learn. Even myself, I had to like learn all these things. And had I not been married and then divorced, I would be like, I'd be a hot mess with the next one because I wouldn't have figured a lot of this stuff out. But at the end of the day, it's really not that serious to them. But, I just, like Delia said, I felt the need to be nurturing, and I want to at least acknowledge, but I also don't want to like train him to just walk around pouting, having a fit, hoping that I beg him to be like, like a dentist.
Fix you.
I don't want to be a dentist doing dental work, pulling teeth. Like, if you have an issue, I want to say one time, like, are we good? Is everything good?
Right.
And if he's like, oh yeah, I just had a hard day at work. Like, you want to talk about it? No. No is no. Don't push it. Yeah, with us ladies, if he says it to us and we're like, no, I don't want to talk about it, chances are it means we want him to beg and knock on the door and be like, come on, babe, like you can talk to me. Yep. That's just how our brains work. Yep. And with them, no is no. Like, no is no, not right now.
When they're ready, they're ready. And I think at the end of the day, it's not to say that you have to be just super submissive, but you know what? I think if it's a balancing act that happens, right? So if the guy is, it's a partnership, I guess is what I'm saying. And so sometimes you got to give and get and get and give, and it's a little dance.
It's a dance.
It's a dance.
Yeah, it's a dance. If he leans in to the conversation, then he's interested in like actually unpacking it or discussing it or whatever.
Exactly.
And if he kind of shuts down, it's different than if we shut down. If a woman shuts down, the man has a real problem. I think, because women will shut down.
I think more than that, I think when a woman is no longer willing to argue and fight with you,
indifferent.
She's done.
It's over.
Yeah, like she doesn't even want to talk about it. Yeah, just pack your boxes. Seriously, like she's to the left for real. Like when a woman has not much to say to you is because she's so done that she's like, you're not even worth like my words.
Yeah.
So, but I think at the end of the day, like, it's really simple. Men are creatures of nature, and they are very simple men that just are, they're very simple, and they just need something like a sandwich or sex and shut up.
And Animal
quit
Planet.
nagging,
Woo,
and
Animal Planet. And let me tell you. Or like The Deadliest Catch. Like, give them action and carnage and
it is
animals.
so weird, right? It's
And
so weird how
on
they
the
like
couch
that.
with like
Yeah.
surround sound, like a really awesome TV, and then like you in the background randomly showing up with a sandwich cut in half on a plate with like a beer. Holy crap, you just like made their entire life. And we're over here trying to be like exciting and do all these things. And I'm not saying settle for that all the time every day, because at the end of the day, men, if any of you are listening, there needs to be some balance.
Of
so
course.
get the Animal Planet, sit on the couch like Ed Bundy or what's his name?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And you know what? But also get ready on Friday night to like dress up and put the cologne on and do your hair and like take her out to a nice dinner. Like, you know, give her that moment, because I
Yeah.
think a lot of us women live for those.
And it's really, and
moments.
honestly, men are simple, so are women sometimes, right? So we as women want like just to be taken care of that
Are
one
we
Friday,
simple? Are
or
we
the
simple?
we can be complicated, but I mean,
In a simple way.
In a simple way. I mean, if you know who you're with, then you know what they like. There are women that do not like to go out though, and there are women that like just would rather be at home. I mean, there's a lot of homebody women too, and there's homebody men. But if you know that your wife or your significant other isn't that woman, I know I'm not. I like to go out. I like to get dressed up. I like to get ready and play that whole like, okay, hair done and
Yes.
makeup's done. But there are women that don't. Like, there are women that are just like, well, let's put a bun up and they're in tennis shoes and
Head to
like
Walmart.
sports attire, and they're good with that. But if you know your woman and you know what they want, then you have to just kind of please them in a way. And then vice versa, like for women, if you know your husband's a very simple man, he just wants the simplicity, like take care of him. And it's really simple in my opinion, right? But I love the fact that Rachel came up with this subject, because she's like, hey, sandwiches, sex,
And
shut-
Delia's whispering.
I don't want YouTube hearing us cussing.
We got advertisers on board. We don't want to like piss anybody
I
off.
don't want to piss anybody off. I'm just saying.
No, but it's so true, and like they are very simple, but at the same time, on the flip side of the coin, you know, men need to understand that just as much as we're willing to like listen to shows like this and learn
Right.
how to navigate their lives and make them comfortable, that they
course.
also have to then put in the work and on our end, and it's for them. It sometimes is work. We want guys. It's like it comes naturally for them to buy us flowers for no reason. That's like 1 in like 100,000 of them, I think, are going to be that way.
So this is for the 3 guys that listen.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there. So usually at every street corner, and I tell this to
Oh, yes.
my brothers. I have 2 brothers, and I tell my brother, because one of my brothers is married, and I tell my brother, listen, you help the guy at the corner out because he's trying to sell his flowers, and usually respectfully there are people. So you help them out. You don't negotiate the prices. You maybe buy 2 things of flowers.
We're talking $5 a bundle here, people.
You know what I mean?
We're in
$5 to
California.
$10.
Yeah.
Let's just say you drop $20. You buy 2. You're helping him out, and you're helping your relationship out. And you say, honey, I was thinking about you today. Here's some flowers. It's so simple. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It doesn't have to be like this like fancy delivery service, right? I'm saying there are women that expect that. I get that, and I'm not necessarily speaking to you. But if you want to kind of, you know, tell a woman like, I love you, and, you know, here's some flowers, like you help
It's
the guy at the
thinking
corner
of
out.
you. It's the thinking of you. It's
it's
every woman wants to
simple.
imagine that their husband was sitting in his car at the red light and saw the flowers and thought of her.
I love her.
And thought of her.
Yeah,
There's
and
gonna,
it's
you
not
know,
so
there's
much.
gonna be some some toxic ones listening, going, yeah, right. If he comes home with flowers and be like, what'd you do? Who'd you do? Where'd you do? You know what I mean? Like,
How'd you do it? When you do it? Why'd you do it?
unfortunately,
Where was I at?
however,
Yeah.
you know, Delia is absolutely correct. It takes very little, and in
Mm-hmm.
that way, we are simple creatures. You know, it's like just show that you think about it, and it's not just helping the vendor and then helping your marriage. It's helping yourself too. To the 3 men that are listening,
Right?
It's helping you too, because one kind gesture with women goes like a long way.
Usually.
Yeah.
Depending
Yeah.
on who you're dealing with, right? And there's always that one unique person, whether it's a man or a woman. But for the most part, I think if you do that, you help the vendor, you help your marriage or your relationship. It's not that big of a deal. And it's not what you say, is the delivery of what you say. So you could just be like, here's a flower, here's some flowers.
Don't say I never did anything for you.
Exactly. And then
my ex-husband used to say, he would do something nice for me, and I would say, why do you have to do nice things in shitty ways? Because he would literally be like, here, now you can't say I never did anything for you. I'm like, what? I'm like not walking around saying he never did anything for me.
Right.
And like, and it would ruin it. It was like smearing the I already said it, right? The shit all over the freaking gift. And I'm like, the other thing I can say too is like, if you guys, again, this is women listening, but the 3 guys in the audience here, don't get in the habit of buying I'm sorry gifts and like making that the only time she gets gifts.
Oh,
because that's like, or when you're guilty, like you might feel guilty about a lot of things. You were a jerk to her. Now you bring the flowers. You need to get in the habit of the just because.
Right.
Because otherwise that nice gift, we're like recorders. Like,
yeah, no, I remember I would get like certain gifts, right? And someone would pay a compliment and they'd be like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, it's an I'm sorry gift. Yeah. And so as much as I wanted to wear it with pride, I'm like, it's just an apology gift. But I think if you just do it just out of act of kindness, and I always say this too though, as women, we have this expectation out of men, right? And the expectation is that he needs to bring us flowers, that he needs to tell us that we're pretty, that he needs to tell us all these things. But at the end of the day, though, in my opinion, they're human beings also. So guess what? If you're a woman that knows that your husband likes a certain thing, or he likes maybe he likes to receive flowers. I don't know. Like, you'd have to have that conversation. I don't know that guys like to receive flowers. It's a little bit. I saw a lady
on Instagram, and she set up a romantic evening, and she bought him flowers and did all this stuff. And he's sitting there, in the video, and I'm like, oh my God.
But I think, okay, let's just say socks. Who buys him socks? Underwear. Yes. Who buys him underwear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say like all the most minimal necessities that a man would need. The only person that will buy that for him, usually, if you have a woman in your life, is the woman. Yeah. So guess what? Maybe go to the store and say, hey, I noticed you needed socks. It's not flowers, okay, because he may not want that, but it's a kind gesture to say, how much are socks, let's be honest, from $6 to $15. Same thing with the flowers. If the 3 men that are listening, how much are the flowers? That's going to make her happy. Socks are maybe going to make him happy, and just say, hey, I thought of you. And so I think it's just one of those rhetorical things. It's like playing tennis. You serve the ball. You have to be someone has to initiate it. It can't be like this war.
Yes.
So if it has to be you be the initiator, and you start the initiation, and you just kind of toss the ball. After a while, you're going to have a game.
Yep.
And that's my opinion.
It's so true. At the end of the day, you go, if the man is a simple creature, which I believe him to be, just based on my experience of raising the 2 boys and being married to one, dating a few, they're so like simple. They are really simple in so many ways, but it's important that they understand the way women operate is we need to be flattered. Like, we need to be validated way more than they do, but they still need that whole, like, where you hug them and you go, ooh, you smell good today, babe. Or, ooh, I love your hair like that. Not the toxic of, like, I'm not going to compliment his ass because then he's going to get a big head. He's going to go out in the streets and pop his collar. And now look at him with this Versace shirt, two sizes too tight. You know what I mean? Like, we do all that too. Like, we get insecure. We're like, I don't want to compliment him because, but let me tell you, if you don't do it, someone else is going to. He's going to walk in a room and you might look at this dude 20 years deep in the marriage going, yeah, right. He has man boobs, freaking dude, has beard. You're thinking like, oh no. But when he walks out into the world, those women didn't see him in his prime. Right. They're just seeing him for the first time, and they're going to look at him and be like, oh, he's not bad. Like, there are women who are daddy snatchers out there in the world, and someone's going to give them the eyes.
Of course. No, it's so true.
And then he's going to get puffed up and everything. But if he can get some of that at home,
So, I mean, I think it's a balancing act, right? It just depends. You know who you're dealing with. So, I think it goes without saying that a compliment goes a long way with anyone you're dealing with. I don't care if it's like, you know, and I'm going to take it a little further, like my pool guy. I'm nothing's going on with my pool guy. Nothing's going on with
okay, we got the pool guy.
Sorry.
I'm gonna take a little sip. The one who don't drink is like, the pool guy. Let's drink on the pool guy.
My pool guy, if you saw him, you wouldn't think, no. He's a nice guy, though. But anyone that, even the people that clean my house, let's just say, anyone, okay, no, wait, I'm not digging myself in a hole. I'm not, nothing's going on with the pool guys.
We got a pool guy. We got people cleaning the house. We got people trimming the trees. We got someone cooking in the kitchen. What else? We are humble today. Welcome to the Humble Show. Are they making humble pie in the kitchen?
Oh my gosh. No, what I'm saying is always be gracious. Always, always be gracious. And I'm always like, I don't know what I would do without you. And I need to say that because I've had a green pool. And I legit have had a green pool. So I have to be very gracious. So be gracious, whoever it is. It doesn't have to be your husband. It can be anybody. Just be gracious. Just be thankful.
Grateful.
Tell them how nice and how grateful you are that they're in your life and that they do this and people just want to hear that.
You know, it's so true because sometimes I know for me personally when I'm going through when I'm starting to get real judgy.
Okay.
And like resentment starts to trickle in. I mean, I consider myself a positive person 99% of the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wake up and I'm just that way. Like,
right.
I'm used to it. It's like muscle memory. Yeah. But it takes training, you know? We're not all naturally like that. And so, but I get sometimes where I just start to like a little tick of like, oh, and you start to get the frustration. And you feel it. And you're like, oh, like whatever. And like there's some resentment or whatever. I have to, in that moment, go, nope, what's the gratitude? Like, where can I be grateful? And then I flip it and go, God, I'm just so grateful. They annoy the crap out of me right now, but I am so grateful for the fact that, like, let's just say on our husbands, you can say that he paid the bills today. I'm so grateful he freaking came home. He didn't go out drinking with his buddies. Like, even though you're like upset, maybe he's late. But when you just focus on the gratitude thing, it just makes
everything kind of just slips away.
But sometimes I'm guilty of this. I go through this whole mental and emotional exercise of doing that to squash the frustration and everything else and replace it with gratitude. But it doesn't always make it outside of myself over to the other person to say, I'm just so glad that like you helped with the dishes today. Like it doesn't always make it out. So I do the inner workings and I'm like, no, I'm grateful. I'm good. And I'm kind to people, but I don't always say, I appreciate you.
Oh, see, and I think that's okay. So the humble pie, right?
Humble pie.
Because at the end of the day, no one, even if you pay them, needs to do anything for you. Okay?
Nobody owes you anything.
No one owes you anything. So for me, even though humble pie, people that are servicing me or I'm servicing them because I also am a business owner and I service people also. No one needs to do anything for me as I don't need to do anything for them. So the fact that I know that I'm very gracious and I have, gratitude towards them because they're human beings that are servicing me and I'm servicing them. If you can tell somebody like how much you appreciate them, a little goes such a long way with just saying, you know what? Thank you for that. I really appreciate you. Do you understand? Like you made my life so much easier. And people are more ready and willing to help you when you have that type of demeanor rather than being like, as you should do that for me. Because I pay you, you're my slave.
But you have to like reward the good behavior. And that could be a whole other show. But like you genuinely have to reward the good behavior. And I think that's where the sandwiches come in. Because, when you look at the sex, that there's a whole reward system in the bedroom, right? But when
both parties.
Yes. And when you look at the sandwiches, though, you go, okay, it doesn't have to be sandwiches. It could be tacos. It could be any little favorite little snack. It could be that you baked something and you made these like cornbread muffins. Like, who knows what he's into,
whatever
right?
he likes.
Yeah, whatever he likes. And all of a sudden, there it is. It could just be cracking open that beer when he's sitting on the couch watching Animal Planet, where he's like, whoa. And so you just have to understand, like, it could, the sandwiches thing, it's any little thing that
Absolutely.
is something that you don't do all the time.
Right.
But in that moment, that gesture is going to be like, oh. And he might not even say, he might just go like, thanks, babe.
Right.
And sometimes when they say thanks, babe, it's a big deal to them. Just those words, thanks, babe. That's
right.
it. That's it.
That's huge.
That's the
That's
explosion.
It. Like, they got you.
In the movie, what is it, Finding Nemo or something? There's like the seagull, and then they show underneath the water, and there's like a massive explosion underneath in the ocean.
Okay.
But to the bird up on top, they just see this little bubble that goes bloop.
Oh.
And sometimes men, okay, have this like explosion of feelings inside of them. I've learned just again from having the two sons, and they're very open with me, with the
That's
mom.
awesome.
Yeah, and so I've gotten to learn so much from raising boys, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
And so they talk openly about all of these feelings or whatever, but what comes out in the surface to the person they're interested in might be this small little blurb. So that little thanks, man.
Yeah.
That little look, that could be a huge thing swirling around
and that
inside.
might be that huge thing where they're like, hey, I was thinking we should take off on a trip.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I was thinking. And at that point, it was something that you did. Because at the end of the day, like I always say, nobody wants to be with an ag. So for me, that goes with the silence, right? If I have to tell you 2 times, so if I have to address something after the 3rd time, granted, when you're married, that's so different. But when you're dating, if you have to address something after the 3rd time, that means that the likelihood of them changing that is very unlikely. And if you should tell them the 4th and 5th time, you have now become a nag because they're not going to change it.
Yeah.
So either you change the way that you look at that situation that is really bugging you, or you're out of the situation that's bugging you, or somehow you internally can deal with it like, okay, so I don't like that he does that, but I love all of these things. So you have to almost make a list of things like, I love this about him, which could be because if you're with someone, you should be able to come up with at least 10 things that you like about the guy. If you cannot, you shouldn't be there.
Maybe
so
we're like,
it has to be like this balancing act, like this whole balancing act
and
of what you do and don't like.
And they don't always know how to navigate your whole situation because as women, we're not always transparent. We expect them to be genies and mind readers, and we drop all the hints and expect them to pick up what we're putting down. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
They're just not that way. So you have to be, if you're a person that talks, that wants validation or affirmations, and we talked about this on a previous episode of the love languages.
Yes.
You probably have to take some sort of initiative to start like a little game. I had a girl that worked for us she was so funny, and what her and her husband did is, I think it was like Sunday night, I want to say, like before they start their week, they would exchange notes. They were love notes, and so they would be in bed, and then they would exchange the note. And it's like throughout the week, they put together a little list of what they were grateful for from the other person. And then they basically Sunday would come, and maybe they were in a bad mood, not in a bad mood, whatever, no matter, rain or shine, they would exchange their notes. Sunday fun day. They would exchange their notes. And I don't know if they did it Sunday morning or whatever, but it was like to kick off the week. And they would get to read each other's notes of what they were grateful for.
Okay.
And I thought to myself.
And how long were they married for?
At the time they had like 4 kids, and they were in it for a while already.
Okay.
But anyways, they're still together. But they did this, and I thought that was a really cutesy way to do it.
Cute.
Guys don't always know. Like, it has to be a very deliberate thing, intentional, of like, okay, I gotta put my list together.
Right.
But if they're like, oh, she did this thing, okay, I want to add that to my list. And now we have technology and all that. But
of
even
course.
if they just get you can make cute little ones on your computer.
Yeah.
But you have to start being, if you need that, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're a woman who needs something that your husband's not giving you, he's not going to read your mind.
Right.
You're going to get frustrated if you have to tell him 10 times.
Right.
So if you really, really need it, and you're not trying to throw out the baby with the bathwater, as they say, then you need to figure out these quirky little exercises that you can do together. I know for me, it'll be feeling like a rehearsed thing. So I kind of like spontaneous things.
Okay.
But I can see a game like that.
So I think
cute.
that would be, so you'd have to have the consistency, in my opinion, right? Because both parties would have to be aligned with that. And the consistency would have to be like both parties are basically saying, where are your notes? I can see how you know, having, you know, like the fact that I've had children and like things get crazy and you're maybe out on vacation, it can get a little bit out of hand. But
Are you gonna
the fact
forget your notes? Are you gonna forget your notes?
So I'm
Delia?
saying I'm gonna forget my notes. I will
Are you
forget
gonna
my
be
notes.
like, hold 1 second and be writing the
I was
freaking
like,
list out real quick?
I'm grateful for. Oh, his hair looks nice today.
Yeah.
Your hair. You have good hair.
Such good hair this
You have
week.
such good hair.
Great hair week.
Wow, his teeth look white. I don't know. But point is, I mean, point is, I guess at the end of the day, it has to be whatever makes sense for you.
Yes.
And yes, we as women have a tendency to be a little bit more of a naggy. So just shut your mouth a little bit more. And you know what? At the end of the day, like, we should be the women that, like, kind of hover in love. So
yes,
it may not be a sandwich. It could be something more fantastic.
Yes,
so
yes.
every once in a while, be that woman that does that. And sex, I mean, both parties should want that. So I don't know. It doesn't have to be a man's thing. Like, oh, I'm going to give him sex. Like, it should be where you want it. He wants it. You guys are coming, kind of meeting of the minds. I know a lot of people, you know, have a little issue with that. And I understand some women go through, I don't know. I guess they go through a lot of ups and downs because at the end of the day, we are just emotional creatures, and sometimes we just don't want to have sex.
I just feel like it's controversial. You need to figure it out, and it doesn't take a whole lot.
Take a village. It's easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So shut your mouth, make a sandwich. Is that what you're saying?
So we're saying, let's go. Sex, sandwiches, and silence. That's been this episode for you. We hope that you've enjoyed it. Again, we love your comments. We love your DMs too. But, you know, share, like, subscribe, all the fun stuff. Don't forget to stay to the very end. We have a little mantra for you, a little pick-me-up, and a reminder that you deserve fresh lettuce. Cheers.
So cheers.